Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're gonna write the app, the to-do list app, and we're gonna have a couple parts. We're gonna discuss some of this. So again, I want to talk about the storyboard. So we have a storyboard where we lay out all the design and all the controls, such as we have different type of controls in iOS. So let's go to the drawboard again. I'm going to discuss some of the controls that we have. So one control that we have is, let me go ahead and create a new layer. So one control that we have is basically called a table view. So it's basically, I can draw, I'm not drawing the straight lines, but a list of rows. Scroll on it, and then you can kind of cells, and each cell is kind of like that, and each cell can hold anything you like. It can hold images, it can hold text, and you've probably seen this before, where you have a list of users with their pictures and their description, and that's a table view. And table view, the way it works is it scrolls down, and then when it gets to the end, it basically reloads from memory, and it actually repeats itself all the time by reloading. It's something called DQ. It DQs reusable cells. So it's a reuse. These cells are being reused all the time. So in order to memory, but so what you do is we'll talk about it. Reuse identifier. So we put a reuse ID for each cell, and then whenever we have another cell, we have another reuse ID. So if we're gonna reuse one cell and repeat that cell, we use that same reuse ID. But if you have there's also sections. So you have a section of, like, let's say you have section of different kind of data, and then so you would have section for, like, say you have videos, you have like movies, and you have action types, and then you have horror, something like that. So let's see. So that's kind of about table views. And another thing is collection views. So we're going to talk about that right now really fast too. Let me go ahead and delete that. Alright, so this collection type is, so the table view, remember, it's vertical, and it only goes vertical, but collection view is vertical and horizontal. So it's like that. This cell, that cell, this cell. It can row in columns, but it can either go this way, which is horizontal, or vertical. So that's collection view. So there's two different types of table view, data for an iPhone. So you have a table where you're gonna put the data, or you have a collection view and table view. Another thing with iPhone, we have an image control, and we have sliders where you slide something, and we have a text field where you input data. We have also label, where you saw last time you just have a text, We also have a bunch of other controls we'll talk about later. But these are the most common ones that you're gonna use a lot. I mean, you have like bar button and navigation controller. That's another thing I want to talk. So navigation controller is, delete this. Okay, so navigation controller is basically, so let's say you have, so remember we had the view controller, right? And then it goes to another screen. And navigation controller is, so this is the iPhone, and on the top you always see some things, it has this back, you go back. Actually, this is the main screen, doesn't have a back one, this one, but let's delete that. Alright, so this is a navigation controller because it navigates to another view, and this has a back button where you can go back. So that's what navigation controller is. The wraps are on the view, and it puts like a top title, and it navigates the view to another view by pushing it. So there's a pushing another view on top of it, or present. So when you're pushing it, you're basically getting another view on top of it. When you present, there's different navigation types where you go on top of it and you cover the whole screen, or you kind of like, or basically it's like this and you're here. I'll show you another picture, it's better. So this is kind of like the main thing with the navigation. So this is all we need to know in order. Let's go back to Xcode, and I'm going to discuss more. So in order to do a to-do list app, we'll go ahead and change this back to white, and we're gonna go ahead and zoom it in. You can zoom it in by pressing this plus and negative button, so you go plus, and we're gonna click on the library object, and we're gonna go ahead, and so what we need to do is create a table. Remember we talked about table view, so let's go ahead and put a table view in there and just drag it over. Okay, now we're gonna discuss something called auto layout. Auto layout is basically the architecture that Apple created in order to help you align all these controls on different devices and different orientations. So if I were to rotate this device on its horizontal position, then this would stay in the center, it wouldn't move. So that's what auto layout is. And in order to add auto layout constraints, all layout constraints are basically how far I am from the top, how far I am from the left, and this is called a trailing constraint, and this is a leading constraint, and this is a bottom constraint, and then this is a top. And it also has a width and a height, a table view. So I want this table view to be, another thing I want to talk about is safe zone. So safe area. Safe area is basically this top, you see this right here? So it doesn't go above the notch, and it doesn't go below this area, because what it does, it would conflict with this home button. But this is mostly valid on devices that don't have the home button, just like iPhone X and other iPhone Pro X. So those devices that don't have the home button, there's a safe area. If not, then we don't worry about the safe area. But we want to like constrict this to we want to align this table view to expand up, like expand and fill the whole view, right? So what we need to do is we need to first create a constraint here. So whenever you want to create a constraint, you click on this kind of arrow, it's kind of airplane icon, and you click on the red lines. See, like there's kind of like these lines that are says add new constraints, and then if you click this on the arrow down, it says safe area. So I'll be worried about safe area, we'll just keep it as safe area, and this one also safe area, and then this one is a safe area. So I want it to be 0 around everything. 0 0, 0. And why am I saying 0? Because I don't want any space around it at all. I want it to expand all sides. And if I say that, and it expanded everything, right? So now I have a table view. So what I want to do now is I want to wrap this in a navigation controller. So if I click on the view controller, I can go ahead and click on this embed in. So there's kind of like an arrow down, and I'll say navigation controller. Okay, now I got a navigation controller and I got a table view. Now I want to have a title here. Remember I said there's a title I can add? Okay, so I want to add title because a to-do list. There we go. So we got a title and we got navigation. Now we want to be able to have rows, right? In order to have rows, what we need is to add a row. So we have the table view, and the table view says dynamic prototype. So what it means is dynamically we're gonna add rows. We don't need to have a static. Static means like it's gonna be just adding rows here. It's not dynamically. So I don't want that because I want to be able to change stuff, and so I'm not gonna do dynamic, right? So I'm gonna say not gonna do static. I'm gonna do dynamic. So I want one cell, and I'm gonna click on the cell. Remember we talked about reuse identifier, so it's gonna be whatever you like on the reuse identifier you can put, but I'll put cell for now. Alright, so I have the table view and I have a reusable identifier cell. So this is my cell, and then it's called table view cell. Remember we talked about classes? So this is a class, table view cell, which inherits from the table view, and this is a table view, and table view is a UI view controller, UI view table view controller, and then this one is, so let's go look at table. So you remember I said let's go to documentation. So if I go here and say go here, hold down the option key and go here, okay, and then say open developer documentation. And I'm gonna say a UI table view controller. And remember we're in a UI kit, so it inherits from UI view controller. So it's a UI table view controller is a UI view controller. So what is a view controller? It's a UI view controller. What is a UI table view cell? Remember the one we just created. UI table view cell is a view. Okay. So you get it? So this, what we created, is actually just a view, this cell. And this table view is a view controller. And our view controller is a view controller. Because this is a view controller, and this is also, most of the things are view controllers, not from view controllers. Alright, so go ahead and let's go ahead and add its delegate and data source. And remember we talked about, we'll talk about delegate and data source in a moment. So if I go ahead and right click on this, and I'll just go ahead and press this plus button, and I just go back to the table because I want it to be that one, and I wanted the delegate also to be it's gonna be my class. And this is gonna be my class. It says to-do list, right? So you can actually right click on it and see what's going on. It says to-do list. To-do list is my view controller. So my view controller becomes the delegate and the data source. So what that means is it's gonna take the responsibility of the view controller. How's that gonna work? Okay, so what delegate is so I'm gonna have this to be the delegate, an extension. I'm gonna extend this view controller. So now I'm gonna conform to this UI table view delegate and the UI table view data source. And now it's gonna tell me I'm missing some functions. Yeah, so it says does not conform because I have said, okay, I conform to this delegate and data source, but I'm not implementing its methods, so I need to implement. Remember I talked about protocols? Okay, protocols is, remember we said it's a contract, but delegate is another way of looking at protocol. So I had a let's say I had a delegate here, and I have a protocol here. Remember, so I have a protocol, and it's I say it's a table view protocol, something like that, right? And then it says func table view start or something like that. I just want to give you an example. So now I want the view controller to have a delegate. Another thing with delegate is you do a weak because you don't want to reference it. We'll talk about it later, but there's also memory reference, so you don't want to have a circular reference. So weak, so just remember it's a weak var, and then it's a table view delegate, and it's a table view protocol, and I have to make it optional. And this one says class bound, don't we say just any object. And the reason we say any object is because it wants weak to be some kind of an object. Remember, we want to assign a type, and the protocol has to be a type too, but say any type. So that's why I did that. And now I have a delegate, and I want the view controller to confirm to this delegate, and whatever I say delegate table view start, right? And whatever class, let's say I have another class here, and that class is conforming to this delegate. And since it's conforming to this delegate, it needs to conform to it, right? Remember, we conform. So now whenever I call any class that, let's say I have another class here, I have another class, and that one is also conforming to the delegate, right? And so this is where polymorphism comes in. So now if I say print hello me and print hello, do you see that as the same method from both classes, but they do it differently, they do things differently, and that's what it's called polymorphism. And what's happening is this delegate, it's saying that, okay, the view controller has a delegate, and the delegate, whenever it starts loading the view, it's going to call to you. So it's whoever is the delegate will call the table view start. And how do I set the delegate? I say, okay, table view protocol, you're going to be the delegate. So if I in the init, I'm going to say, okay, the delegate of this guy of the view controller. So I need to somehow know that I am also the view controller. So I need to inherit from the view controller. Self.delegate equals self. Because now I become the delegate, and now I'm gonna be able to. Okay, so this one, whenever you have inheritance, you have to be the first before your protocol. And this required, don't worry about it. Sometimes whenever you don't have any properties in a class, it will tell you to do that. So now what's going to happen is I'm saying that self delegate is self. So this this delegate right here, I become the delegate. So I do the work now. So now it's gonna call. So whenever this guy calls, it's gonna call the me. But if me2 becomes the delegate, then it's gonna call me2's table view start. You get it? So if I had a me3 and me3 becomes delegate, it's gonna call me3's table view start. And that's so important concept to learn, because now the table view has a delegate, right? And since I became, remember I saw that I in the storyboard, I assigned myself as the delegate and data source. So I'm delegate and data source. That means whatever the table view upper calls, whatever function it calls in the table view that Apple created, I become the responder. I respond to any messages. So that's why if I'm inheriting, so this thing gets called right here from the delegate calls this method, and now I get to I get to listen to it and see what it's returning. So number of sections is, so we want to be able to have a list of items that the person is going to add, right? So the list of items, so we're going to do that next time. Let's go ahead and just have all the properties working. So we have number of rows. Let's say just do a return, so how many rows it has. I just say 10. And then so we have a cell already. So just say cell and say DQ, say table view, DQ, reusable cell for identifier. So remember we had an identifier for that cell called cell. It was the reusable identifier, and then we have the index. Index path is basically has the index row and section, but we just pass in the index path here. And then I want to just go ahead and get the text label and text, and I'm just gonna test it out, see if it works. Just put hello, and now what's gonna happen is it's gonna call this table 10 times, right? And each time it's gonna come here and say, oh, what cell do we have? Okay, we have this cell, and what does it say? Hello. So it's gonna say output 10 times. So we need to return this cell to the, because it says the return type is UI table view cell. All right, so let's go ahead and run it. All right, see. So we got a to-do list app, and we have all the cells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because we had 10. So this concludes the first section of setting up the to-do list app. We're gonna go ahead and add list and remove from the list, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. All right.